Welcome to Voices in Hyperspace, a podcast where friends get together to discuss the soap opera Babylon 5, unfortunately abbreviated as BV. I'm one of your hosts, Anita Painter.
I'm Captain Melisila.
I'm Legendary Black Lion.
Hey y'all, this is Sunday.
And we are looking at episode 7 of Babylon 5 Season 2, entitled Soulmates. I had a lot of fun watching this, and so I watched it twice. I got a chance to watch it with Nita. Hey, Nita.
Yeah.
And I noticed something. And I think, like, okay, so the show actually shows you one of the conspiracies, and it takes one of the main characters to explain it at the very end. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like, because you see it happen and you put it together, but then the way he explains it, it just points to you how smart and how conniving some of these characters are. So we're gonna just jump into it. So the episode opens up and we got Veer hanging out in customs, preparing to pick up Lando's wives from Centauri Prime.
Yes.
Big ups to non-monogamy. Let's go.
Yes.
Okay, I guess we're gonna go ahead and start this conversation now.
Take me to my husband.
I know, right? Because Garibaldi he's there watching. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm here to pick up women," and I love the Veer character because he has so much candor. Quick question to y'all and to the audience: is Veer neurodivergent coded?
Possibly, but it also could be that neurodivergence looks different in their species.
I don't know what coded means.
Like, maybe he's not outright a neurodivergent character, but some of his characteristics can reflect neurodiversity. He reflects kind of like this high anxiety type thing.
He also sees past the social constructs of his society, where everyone else we've met in his species are obsessed with power in some form of way. They look up to trying to their status or how they look to other people, where Veer like kind of just wants to do his job and is concerned about people. He has a lot of empathy, where like other people in his species don't have those characteristics.
Not in this episode, but in future episodes, we'll see more of his development in that area. Mm-hmm. And the whole non-monogamy thing. This is interesting because we get to see that the Centauri society has non-monogamy as one of their kind of like central to their culture, but the way that they have it set is like polygamy, and the wives are marrying for money and power, and I believe the husbands, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, the husbands are marrying for like status, right? We know right. We learned that Lando has 3 wives, and apparently he has a nice chunk of change in his accounts, so they're all being supported very well. We've never seen them before, and they're quite comfortable not seeing him.
And quite irritated to be called to his presence. Like, what are we here for? And very impatient over being told what's happening, even though the third of 3 wives was not present for that first conversation.
Right.
He's mentioned before that the reason why his marriages work is because he's all the way at Babylon 5 and they're still on their own planet.
Right. It's like, as long as they're away, we're good. And we can kind of like throw in some of the 90s send up to marriage. I think that comes from the 70s and 80s sitcoms and soap operas. People hated being married, and they liked writing about how they hated.
Well, that was older than that. Oh, sorry.
60s.
That even in the 50s, like what was that one about loving their wife to the moon? Like, he would straight up hit her.
The honeymooners.
The honeymooners.
Yeah, they talked about spousal abuse.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing at spousal abuse. I am laughing at the TV show that, yeah. Anyway. While that's going on, there's another person that enters Babylon 5 that confronts a security guard. The security guard is yelling at him. Suddenly, the security guard calms down and is just like, I don't know what I was mad for. You can go ahead. The guy's name is Matt Stoner. And
the worst name ever.
Right.
I think it's a very fitting name. I think it's a very fitting name because he looked stoned throughout the entire episode.
Yeah.
His psychic powers was telekinesis of making other people stone. Like,
oh jeez.
Telekinesis of THC. That's what it was.
THC telekinesis.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds better in my head.
He's filling up those cannabinoid receptors with telekinesis. So this actor's name is Keith. Oh, jeez, I can't pronounce his last name. But we've seen him in a lot of other things. He's been in The Dark Knight. He is a voice actor. He's in all kinds of stuff. And you know what? When he's on screen, he looks like he knows exactly what he's doing. And I totally buy it. It's great. So Garibaldi sees this interaction and he's just like, what in the heck just happened? The merchants that were, the merchant that he had used his telekinesis on just suddenly shifted and he apologized to Matt, and that just kind of set off all kinds of bells and whistles for Garibaldi. Later on, Garibaldi mentions this to Captain Sheridan, and he was talking about, like, you know what? I saw this guy and I initially just didn't like him. And Sheridan's like, well, what is it? He's like, I don't know. I just don't like him. And you know what? For the first time since we started this podcast, I feel Garibaldi. Like, sometimes you just meet people and you're like, you know what? I don't like you. I hope you fall down a flight of stairs. I hope you spill hot water on yourself. I hope you stub your toe on the coffee table.
I hope you dream that you gotta go potty, but you never wake up.
Right.
Oh.
And during this conversation, I'm just the biggest hater. I hate the way that you talk, the way that you walk, the way that you dress.
Why do you believe like that?
During this conversation, Talia walks in. It's because Sheridan is like, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about some rumors I heard over Psy Corps net, which, okay, I guess military captain would be on there. We never find out what that rumor is anyway. But when Talia walks in, they ask her, like, do you know this guy, Matt Stoner? And she goes, God, yeah. Only in the worst way possible. We were married. Dun dun dun.
Married.
That's a really cool way to start an episode.
You started off with polyamory, polygamy, with multiple marriages, and then going straight into I married him and it was the worst possible experience. Yeah.
Now let's just go off of looks alone. Take a look at Matt Stoner and just his smarmy face, that just turned up snarl, that self-important feel that he kind of gives off. And there's a reason why, but just imagine that, and it's like, that's your husband. You're married to that guy. Not only are you married to that guy, but the organization you're part of set up that marriage. So you got to be married to that guy.
Yeah, the explanation of how they met was like, when you go into Psy Corps as a new telepath, they give you a mentor. And then that mentor, like, I don't know, I was thinking that she was groomed into the process and then married. But she was like, he was sweet and caring and compassionate. Like, she really fell for him and they had a love affair. And then it turns into Psy Corps thought our genetics were, primal.
Yeah.
Or optimal for, compatible to procreate. So then we were kind of coerced into a marriage until Psy Corps did too much genetic testing on one of us, and he almost died. So then he was removed from the organization, and our marriage was annulled. Like, I don't really see where her relationship with him was like awful or bad, to where she was not happy to see him or wasn't thrilled by his presence on the station.
What if all of that charming was part of his special gift that he was using on her? Part of that, like, I just like the last episode. Oh, hey, by the way, y'all, this is a Talia Winters centric episode again, like 2 in a row. Boom, boom. Pay attention to that. Pay attention to that telepath. I was gonna say psychopath.
But would you be wrong?
Undetermined.
She is a. Okay.
But Matt is probably using his power on her, because I suspect her mentor. I suspect that Talia's mentor was using her power on her too. I think the telepaths just be manipulating each other until a certain point. And the reason why she's looking at him with contempt is because she probably doesn't feel good. She's like, something didn't go right, and I don't like this dude being around me. You know, she hates the way that he walks. She hates the way that he talks. She hates the way that he dress. She hates the way that he sneak this.
But then her attitude kept flip-flopping and wish-washing around. Like, she makes it clear to Garibaldi that I really don't care for my ex-husband. I am shocked that he is on the station. And then when he unsolicited goes to be like, hey, keep your creepy butt away from Miss Winters, and then he really is not able to keep up intellectually with the conversation with the ex-husband, because he just pushes all of Garibaldi's buttons to the point where he was about to suffer some police brutality. Talia then tells Garibaldi to mind his damn motherfucking business.
Right.
Like, because I'm about to leave the station with him anyway, because I'm easily manipulated.
Right.
And like, when it comes to other people in the Psy Corps, she acts very much like someone who's been gaslit all her life, which, I mean, there's evidence that she has. So, if she's in a predicament where she's scared of Psy Corps or what they might do, then she's going to do what she thinks is going to help her be safe.
Right.
And she's been gaslit so long that, like, when someone is gaslit by another individual, someone who's trying to control them for a long period of time, they forget what their own thoughts are. So she may have been gaslit by him so much that as soon as he gets around, boom, she doesn't know how to think on her own anymore. She just does whatever Psy Corps thinks is appropriate, which is totally normal for someone who's been in a narcissistic relationship or an abusive relationship. And that's how, like, people in abusive relationships, from the outside, we're like, why are you there? But their brain is in, like, complex PTSD when it comes to dealing with a person who's controlling them. It's more about surviving that person than it is surviving in general, because it's a trauma response. So it doesn't make sense.
And add on top of that the layer of the way the Psy Corps, like, all of the Psycops kind of sort of allude to their playing with people's minds, like, at will. They know that they're supposed to follow the rules, and you won't be able to catch them breaking the rules, but every once in a while you're like, are you really scanning me, or, you know, I feel like you're up to something. Anyway. So in one of the bars, Lando is partying hard. He is, like, whatever that bar is, they love him. He's yelling like, hey, another round of drinks for all of my friends. Meanwhile, Veer is back at his quarters. His wives, Timov and Daguerre, they're waiting on him to arrive at his quarters. And I thought that was so funny, because, like, he's out just, like, living it up. And they're like, okay, you called us here. Why do we gotta wait for him? Like, go get him. And of course, poor Veer, he's there to try to, like, keep things calm. While all that's going on, we get to have a little bit of fun. Remember our good friend Ambassador Delenn.
Yeah. I'm so confused with how after the chrysalis, she's got forever short hair on the top that looks like it goes through the bone plate and then is long at the back. Like, what kind of weird mullet is this she's got going on?
I don't know. It's just wild. And in her quarters, Ivanova walks in. Her hair is just that floof. I don't even know what to call it. Right?
It's a bird's nest.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then we learn some not so pleasant things about Minbari. Because
they look humanoid, but they not actually taking baths.
They don't take baths.
They take acid bath. They just melt their skin off instead of cleaning it. And then in the night, they secrete this fluid.
Yeah.
I wanted to know the rest, but
I don't.
Letter.
I don't want to know what their excretory system is, how it works, and like where do they secrete it?
I mean, secreting fluids isn't really the worst thing. I mean, there's some pretty good reasons to have that happening. Let's not be judgy, people.
It kind of sounds like, because I slightly remember this as a kid having a conversation with my dad about it, that they take off their skin and then the fluids maybe dry up and becomes a new layer of skin every day, like they're molting or something.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like they're molting. That's okay. Yuck.
They're snakes
because they got bone heads and stuff like that. So they're like they're the space cicadas.
Yeah, cicadas. Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And Delenn asks Ivanova to help her, and she's like, "Have you been washing it?" She's like, "No, I spray this stuff on it." And they're she's on like, it represents rebirth and cleansing. We find out like, no, that's not good. In fact, Ivana was like, your hair is brittle. And I like her response. She's like, I got things to do, but Delenn insists that she helps.
Delenn has not accepted that she's not Minbari anymore.
No, she hasn't.
Like she's still keeping with the Minbari customs, but her body is not Minbari.
Because without the bone, she looks human. So that's maybe goes into one of the theories that I had about the head pieces, that maybe it's something they wear, because it never really looked attached to her head. Like when it covered the whole back of their head, it looked like it could be growing out of it. But when she just had that one little strip on there, it looked like it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
Right. And then like sometimes some of the hair is in there, sometimes some of the hair is out of it, and then it didn't make any sense for it to lay down like it was completely falling down. And maybe it just comes off. Like maybe it's just a cultural thing that they wear.
Right. So next we see how Sheridan eventually tracks down Talia in a museum, which the station has a museum, and Talia's putting her grubby hands all over an ancient guitar. The guitar is probably like 300 years old, and she's just strumming away at it. And this is where we learn about her relationship with Matt Stoner, Psy Corps, how they were set up to be married and all of that stuff. And like, on the one hand, we're like, I'll look at it. Okay. On the one hand, Talia is supposed to be, she's presented as like, she's a blonde quote unquote bombshell. She's like, people are supposed to be attracted to her. We have a main character that is constantly like hovering around her, so she's supposed to be attractive. And we have this weird guy that she was married to, and he's constantly coming around, and they don't seem to have positive chemistry. And but he's kind of like, he has kind of like a gravity around everybody. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we learned about how he left Psy Corps and he's doing other things. This is where Sheridan was saying he thought that people left Psy Corps feet first. In other words, you get out by dying. You know, it's like a game. You know, you blood in, blood out.
Oh, geez. The explanation on how they were testing on him and the medication, you know, effed him up real bad and caused him to lose his abilities was making, you know, me think about like my distrust of the medical model and all the things, how exploratory surgeries and different things like actually ends up in the death of people. And there's, you know, most of the time, no compensation or anything for the family unless you want to go through all kinds of legal systems to sue hospitals and insurance companies. But like our system currently is not set up in a way to make sure that people are compensated appropriately for pain and suffering. And, you know, even in this show that is supposed to be, you know, thousands of years away from now, is still just exploitive, and a real lack of care for the individuals that are, you know, putting in the labor and their life to get the companies or corporations or military, whatever it is, the outcomes that they're looking for. Which is also like a nod to the gentleman that was having like the psychotic situations that we haven't brought up. We can talk about him later, but
yeah. Bring that up. If
No
you're a
problem.
former member of Psy Corps, you may be entitled to compensation. Just be sure to report to a Psy Corps office and we will have a discussion with you. All right. So, we find after this, we have main character finally acknowledging something, which I guess they should have by this part of the season. Jakar is talking to the captain about how he's wondering, like, hey, you settled in because, you know, we don't know if you're going to stick around. Maybe you like mysteriously be reassigned and sent far away. And he's like, and Sheridan's like, why do people keep asking me that? And after that, Malari walks by like, hey, Captain, settling in. And he's super happy. And he's like talking about how wonderful and how great it is because it is his Ascension Day. I thought the interaction was a little weird because we know that the Centauri and the Narn are pretty much mortal enemies. Lando is so happy and just jovial all over Jakar. Jakar is responding with like a pressure headache. He really hates that Lando is happy and that Lando is showing kindness towards him. And what happens is Lando goes back to his quarters. Tamav is there demanding like to know, why did you summon me? And this is where Malari goes, don't you know what day it is? They're like, no, it's my Ascension Day. And the Emperor, he hasn't forgotten. Y'all may have forgotten. He hasn't forgot. But they're going to grant me one thing that I wanted so bad. And you're like, okay, so what's that? A divorce from all three of you. So, a question that's just out there. What is an Ascension Day? I didn't know that Lando was that close with the Emperor. But cool, kudos, right? He's moving up that chain. And now he's trying to get rid of his 3 wives, which he probably married through a series of arrangements to gain wealth and power.
Yeah.
And now that I got what I want, you're disposable.
Yes.
Yeah, that goes into the, in comparison to the other marriage, like they did not choose that.
Oh, yeah.
And polygamy is fine if you actually choose to do that. If you want to have more than one, but like, I don't know. I've heard too many people be like, this is the way it should be and this is what you should want. Like, everybody wants something different.
Right.
Yep, and that's my least favorite argument for non-monogamous relationships is the economic power that we can do. Like community economics, I love it. I don't like the exploitation, because a lot of times it'll be a hierarchical situation where the husband and wife are having a second wife come, who a lot of times ends up being like
a servant,
the nanny, or the maid or something that's helping keep things together, but they're also having to work and then put their funds into whatever the vision of the man is.
Yeah.
Which is to just be in a more powerful position than he currently is.
Right. Like, theoretically, there's no reason why, like, two siblings can't get together and buy a house together and the family live together and do the same thing economically without it having to be a power dynamic.
Yep. And then insert the inequality for polyamorous people, because you try to get 3 or 4 consenting adults into a house and you got all these real estate laws about whether you're married or not. And even if you choose not to get married, if you live together for this many years, we're going to common law marry you whether you want to or not. Like, you don't even have a choice in this freaking country. They're just so far down into your business, you can't even see straight.
And remember, the Centauri, they're being depicted as kind of like an aristocratic society type of culture. Everybody's pulling deals, they're conniving, they're scheming, they're doing things for power. And their marriages, except for those 2 teenagers, their marriages seem to mainly be for status. And I think if y'all want to learn more about that,
Jane Austen?
Yeah, there you go. I feel like they might be referencing some Jane Austen stuff. I mean, we're not that far removed from the Victorian area, but I think that might be a good reference point for learning about what the Centauri are doing, or to have a context for what the Centauri are doing.
Mm-hmm.
I pulled up this whole Ascension Day thing. It doesn't really say much. It says the Day of Ascension is an important event for the lives of Centauri males. And then they go to describe a party. The 13th anniversary day of Ascension of an up-and-coming figure in Centauri politics, Ambassador Malari. Oh, yeah, that's the 30th, sorry. Was honored with a large party on Babylon 5. So, other than having a party, I don't know what I don't know what the Day of Ascension is, but hey, let's see if we can sneak that in and have a day of Ascension. We can totally have a big party.
We need an excuse for him to get this gift.
Yeah.
It's not something that humans understand.
Yep.
You can't just say it's his 50th birthday. No.
Being gifted the marked cards. That was why I marked them just how you told me.
Right. So, and I wrote in my notes that this is where, when the Centauri are not conquering or stealing, they are enjoying high society drama. Those 3 women do not like each other, and they don't like Lando, and Lando does not like them. It's great. Lando's youngest wife, Muriel, arrives. He enjoys the grief of her learning of the news. So all of them are upset that they're going to be separated from him. Meanwhile, a good old friend, Matt Stoner, who sounds like the name you would try to give a bad kid in the 90s sitcom, or what are those things called? After school specials?
Mm.
He's selling a small Centauri sculpture to a merchant. This merchant looks familiar. What does he look like?
A giant.
Right.
He looks like the butler from the. He looks like, what's his name? The Addams Family.
He looks like Lurch.
Lurch.
There's a reason why. Because he totally played Lurch. This is Carol Struycken. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Sorry. But he is an actor from the Netherlands. And he's a Dutch actor. He played in Star Trek The Next Generation. He was Lwaxana Troy's valet, the giant blue alien.
Oh.
Yeah. He has some very striking features. He's super tall. He fit those roles great. And he's given Matt some hard time about the artifact. But then eventually he kind of like goes ahead and buys it. I'm going to just go ahead and say it. We know that Matt did not lose his telepathic powers. And I think he is strategically using them to get to navigate the station. So his objective was, I want to sell this statue, and he sells it.
Yeah, it's hard to really know because all they have to do is lie. Like, how are you actually going to prove it? But it seems a little different, his ability, than to like know whether someone is being transparent or not, versus like when he was talking to the customs officer, right. And it was almost like he had the ability to change that officer's like mood, right? Yes. Or perspective. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So keep that in the back of your mind. We will revisit that.
We joke about it having a lot in common with Star Trek, but now it has one thing in common with Star Wars. He did the Jedi mind trick.
Yeah. Yep, there you go. So Lanier goes to Delenn's quarters. They talk about the invitation to Malari's Ascension Day party, and Delenn walks out, and she looks different this time.
She got her hair fried, dyed, and laid to the side. She came hot from the beauty salon, looking fabulous.
Yeah, with her and Ivanova, they have her hair in rollers, like metallic rollers, and
sapphire rollers.
Sapphire rollers, right? And she's like, "This is strangely relaxing because." Lanier questioned if it hurt, and I haven't had hair in a long time. I had locks when I was younger. Sunday, you have locks.
Hey,
getting your locks retwisted, strangely relaxing.
No, not at all. It is quite the most uncomfortable experience. I've got super tender scalp, and I'm thankful to be locked, so I only have to experience that discomfort once a month. But what I can say, what is relaxing is maybe what she's experiencing is like the washing part. Having your hair washed, the last time I did it was right after going swimming, and yeah, the tingly sensation when the shower is hitting you directly in the scalp. Ooh, yeah. That is a blissful feeling.
I guess this is kind of like the running joke in the background. So it's, it's just to show that Delenn is going through this process. Also, again, for some reason, Ivanova's the one. She's the one that she picked. So,
but is it for you to like have your hair, even though you're cutting it off? I imagine, and I hope to experience it one day, when I shave my head, to like feel the clippers go over your scalp. And
yeah, like a good like barber or just hair experiences. It does feel good to feel like you just want it done. You don't like, you know what I mean? When your hair's not done, you feel uncomfortable. When it's done, you feel great.
I'm the opposite.
Yeah,
I went about 7 months without twisting my locks. And I do my own hair. Like, engineering and I do not like getting our hair done. Like, it's part of the reason why I have locks. Like, if I could go freeform, I would. And washing my hair, I do it a lot often than normal. So I pretty much do it whenever I feel like it, maybe every 3 days, because it's locked. Well, for me, because it's locked. So I don't really consider like it being a great feeling. I do like having my hair soaking wet when it's super hot outside. That's about it. So maybe because I'm neurodivergent, the autism and the sensory things. And it's common for people with autism to not want to get their hair done. Like, yeah. And
it is really, for me, like, it depends on what is being done. To have my hair combed and brushed, or to have the retightening process done, that is the worst. The sensation is awful. I am highly in an agitated state. Even when people like will call me to talk to me on the phone, I'll just let them know, like, no, I'm getting my hair done. You do not want to talk to the monster right now, because I have no control over the fury that comes. It's getting better, being locked, as opposed to when I was a child and having my hair combed without any products or chemicals. As a child, it was like a genuinely traumatic experience. My mom would plead with people to, that are babysitting me, like, I'm pretty sure you think Sunday's hair looks crazy. Don't try to help. Like, leave her alone. Do not get her hair wet. I was like a magwai. Is that the thing called off the Gremlins? Like, do not get it wet.
Yeah. All right. The one part that I skipped was during that interaction with Stoner and the merchant. Garibaldi approaches. He doesn't like what he sees, and he's giving Stoner a hard time. Stoner is like, "Hey, everything is legal." Garibaldi's frustrated. Is like, "Look, I hate the way that you talk." Now, Garibaldi is like, "We need to go have a chat." And while Garibaldi found like a really tight and dark space for them to have their little chat. It has to be like one of those security rooms. It's like an interrogation room, right? Mm-hmm. And he explains to Stoner, like, "Look, I'm friends with Talia. You leave her alone. Leave my girl alone." And Stoner is being smarmy and pompous, and he's all like, "Look, I do what I want." And you can't do nothing to me, son. And Garibaldi grabs him. He's about to throw him, which I wish we had a counter on police brutality, because I'm pretty sure we've seen a couple of instances with Mr. Garibaldi.
Oh, that's what we should do with the chart that I was doing, and make it into a counter.
Yeah, do a counter. Yeah.
Well, I got it easy right now. I can rewatch some stuff and come up with a counter for all these different things that we've pointed out in the show.
Sweet. Yeah, off the air we'll talk about a couple of these, because like the show does a lot of, it revisits some things. But Garibaldi is all like, "Stay away from Winter." Stoner walks away. He's like, "Do what I want." Back with Mr. Malari. So Muriel runs into the Zocalo. Oh, this is actually on the Zocalo. Muriel runs into the Zocalo, and she encounters Sheridan. She got separated from Malari, and Malari sees Muriel and Sheridan together, and he quickly pulls Sheridan aside, and he's warning her, because I guess what's happening is Muriel is kind of like turning up the charm. Mm-hmm. She's the younger one, and she's just being she's playing her role. You know what I mean? She's being, I don't even know what to call it, but she's kind of playing up to him. Flirty? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. She's being flirty to be manipulative.
What is this flirt you talk of?
Seduction.
Oh my God. But this is where Malari warns Sheridan, like, "Look, you have these creatures on Earth that are attracted to flames, yeah?" He goes, "Yeah, Moth." He goes, "Muriel is attracted to men with power, except it's the men that get burned." And I'm just like, you married her, bro. You married her.
I'm also impressed. He finally got it right, though. Like, normally when he's mentioning Earth creatures, he gets it mixed up and it's a joke. But this time, he understood what he was saying.
I mean, they do seem to be obsessed with Earth animals. You know, the thing that has web feet, it goes quack. A cat. So, this episode is jumping around a lot, but let's just follow along. So they jump to the Eclipse Cafe. This is one of the many eateries in Babylon 5. This is where Stoner approaches Talia Winters, and he's kind of pushing up on her, and she really is resisting. She's like, I don't want to talk to him, and he's trying to tempt her with the idea of leaving Psy Corps. He explains what happened. This is where we learn about the experiments that messed him up, and he's like, yeah, I lost my powers with these drugs. I can arrange the same thing to happen for you.
Giving very much Rogue and Magneto. Magneto's always right. Come on.
Except, I guess Magneto is like 50 years older than Rogue too, so...
Let's not go the ageist route. We've had this conversation before.
I do suspect that Rogue is 30. And we will end it at that.
Nice. But
Magneto survived the Holocaust. He's like 93 years old.
That part, but he still look good.
Wait a minute, today, but it takes place in 97. So it's like 30 years ago. So he would be in his 60s. Which is still creepy, but just a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, they got the whole powers thing overriding any other aspect of anything.
I think in the future we'll do a side mission discussing X-Men 97, and we will discuss all of that interesting development.
Yeah, because I'm with the smoke on that whole conversation. Let's go. But in this situation, after the dinner with the husband, she is intrigued and ends up having to tell Garibaldi to, back up off, the husband, because I'm probably going to leave with him. And Garibaldi's baby feelings is hurt. Poor Muntoto Mundogo. However, Talia is sick of reading people's minds. I really was feeling her when she said, I'm tired of not being able to get close to people because they're afraid of what I'm going to find out about them. That would be extremely challenging situation to be in, to try to I don't know, develop friendships like that.
Yeah. And remember, I was making a big deal about Garibaldi always being around Talia. Whenever security needs to be somewhere, Garibaldi just pops up. He's just there for her. In the pilot episode, he's there for her. In the last episode, he's there for her. He got a thing for her. We know. We see a little bit more of that in this episode. Yada 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 yada. Poor Garibaldi gets his feelings hurt. Well, how's that different from any other day? In the meantime, what's happening is Muriel and Daguerre, they're fawning over Malari. They understand, they figure out how can we woo Malari to pick me, right? And they're over there fawning over Malari. Timov is disgusted. They're basically insinuating that they're gonna have a menage a trois, and Timov is like, no, what do you think I'm into?
Not participating in sexual Olympics with you losers.
You have devolved. Now, that's an interesting choice of words. It makes me wonder, as much as they hate each other, did she kind of have I don't know, I wouldn't say a spot for him, but she kind of saw him a certain way? I don't know.
Yeah, likely. She probably respected him at one time. Maybe. I liked the perspective on the maybe the second wife, I'm assuming, like what order they got married in. But when they were arranging the orgy,
oh geez.
The younger wife was saying that, you know, I'm the only one for you and you're the only one for me. And, you know, he's like, I know that you've been going after, you know, anything with a paycheck. And she's like, no. And he's like, well, prove it. And, you know, let's get this threesome cracking. And the second wife was being asked, like, are you really into this? And she's like, if that's what pleases, what's his name? Malari.
Yeah.
And that response, you know, I can understand, because when it comes to non-monogamy, it sometimes, like, the way you feel about one of your partners, you may be willing to, like, I'm not really into this thing, but I know this is what you really like. So let's have this experience, you know, try it. You might like it kind of situation.
No, but they're in a powerless situation. They're trying to, like, manipulate Lando, you know?
That I do understand, but the sentiment is just something that I can understand, even though I'm not in the same lack of power situation that they are. I am open-minded and adventurous. I'm willing to explore things that, like, I might not have even thought about doing this, but my partner wants to try this. What could it hurt? Try it. You might like it, kind of thing. So that's all I'm saying.
She's trying to get them dollar bills. Nah.
Yeah, I kind of thought it was like her way of manipulating him to woo him. And the other one, she's also interested in staying his husband, his wife, because he did say that he could only that he was able to keep one of them. So he's not divorcing all of them, just two of them.
Just two.
So they're fighting over which one he's going to keep. So they're using sex to try to stay his wife. Where the other one's like, you know what? You think you do what you want.
Yep. And I don't know if it was in this part or before, but he was kind of reveling in them bickering and fighting over him. He's like, ladies, please continue. And it just shows him just being so joyful. Like he really, all he has to do is choose. He doesn't really care for them. So in the meantime, what we see is in the shops, the Centauri artifact that was sold to the giant dude is being sold to Muriel, the younger of his wives. Little bitty snippet. And then we get to see Ivanova. She's finishing her daily reports with Sheridan, which I like that we're seeing these like short scenes with them two talking about working. They're actually doing things. I do like, I point this out because, you know, a lot of sci-fi, especially sci-fi epics with spaceships, they don't talk about the mundane. Like in Star Trek, they're only solving crises. They're not like, you know, doing their routines. I don't know. And Sheridan and Ivanova, they're talking about the invite to the party, and Ivanova explains, like, all guests must be barefoot. It's a custom, which sounds weird, but sure, okay, whatever. Aliens, right? We got strange customs here on Earth with different religious parties, so fine, no shoes.
Or spitting on cake before you serve it to your guests.
Yeah, screw that.
Oh. You mean like the candle thing?
Yeah, blowing out candles. You're spitting all over the cake when you do that.
I think like go ahead.
No, you got it.
I think the candle thing was separate from the cake thing, because it symbolizes like putting intentions out. It's kind of it looks like a witchy thing to me. Like you blow out the candle in order to let your intentions out into the air.
Yeah.
And then the cake thing was just a social status thing that eventually got so popular, and eventually the resources for it became more abundant, that everyone started doing that. And then they decided somehow to combine those two things. It does make sense to have them separate because you're blowing on the food that everyone else is going to eat. That's why I always do cupcakes.
Yeah.
That's why I always do cupcakes. Right?
Yeah. You give the birthday person a little bit of a cake to blow out, and you give everybody else like sheet cake. Have y'all seen those real or cake videos?
Yes.
And they're getting so elaborate. Somebody sent me a video of a burger, and it looked like a juicy burger sizzling, and it was a cake. It was wild. Like, these artists are getting pretty elaborate. Anyway, Jakar arrives to the party. This is where we start to get back to our. This has to be a counter to. This is where we get back to our trend of Jakar eating things. I don't know what he's eating. His mouth is full though, and he's wearing boots. And Malari's wives are like, "Hey, I see that you've come and you're wearing boots." And he's like, "Yes." And they're like, "Don't you know how? Yeah, you know how offensive and disrespectful that is." He goes, "He's like, indeed." He really doesn't like Lando. And then Lando's like, "Oh, Jakar, my friend, I'm glad you're here." And Jakar is like, "Oh, I really don't like this."
It didn't even work. I wasn't even able to upset him.
Right. And it's weird. Everybody's at this party. Delenn's there. Of course she was invited. Garibaldi is there. And they end up having a conversation. And this is where Garibaldi is like, "Yeah, I don't know what it is. Whenever I see this guy, I just instantly hate him." And Delenn begins to have kind of like I don't know, a Dalai Lama moment, a poetry moment. She's on like, "Yes, in the universe, you have lived many lives and you have encountered people many different times. And it could be something that attracts you two souls together." Hence the term soulmates, right? And he's just thinking like, wait a minute, so I met this guy in a past life. And basically the assumption is he has like good instincts, and it could be something just about Matt's soul. Matt Stoner has a bad soul. He's been bad in every life. So it's kind of Delenn's way to help Garibaldi justify his dislike for this person. And I'm just going to throw it out there. Like, Matt is manipulating Garibaldi. Like, he's manipulating him. Garibaldi doesn't like him, but he keeps getting curved, right? This is when they start pulling out gifts for Malari. And, he got his marked cards from Lanier, which were great. Which, let's, remind you all, they went and hung out and played cards together.
His penis.
Yes. Yeah. Every time you see Lando and Lanier together, think Lando's penis. The wives present Lando with a gift, which is the same Centauri artifact that Matt had sold onto the station and that Miriam had bought. Lando opens it up, and it shoots things out of his eyes right into his forehead, which, yes, that's crazy that the darts did that, but I thought he got little horns sticking out of his head.
I didn't realize that they were shot out of the eyes.
Yeah, it's really weird looking.
I thought it was out of the boobies.
Maybe. It could be.
Either way, that sucks.
So, we have an assassination tip against Lando. He's in the hospital with Dr. Franklin. Comes to find out, like, he's poisoned with something serious. It's messing up his system. He needs a blood transfusion of Centauri blood. Mariel and Daguerre, they're having this conversation about, like, hey, if he dies, you're set, because they're still married, right? And so what we see at this point, we have a nice collection of suspects. We got all three wives. We got Matt, maybe even Jakar. I don't know, but like nobody really likes Lando, right? Except for people who he buy drinks for. So we got our we got a good amount of suspects.
People who don't actually know him.
Right. Yeah, if you knew Lando, you wouldn't like him. Ooh, especially later. Oh, geez, yeah. Apparently doing his job, Garibaldi is questioning Stone about the artifacts. Stoner claims like, I found it on an abandoned colony. I didn't know what was in it. And this is where he gives the alibi. He gets the alibi really from Garibaldi that the Centauri abandoned that sector to the Narn, and it could have been booby trapped in response to Centauri DNA, all that stuff. And really, they don't have anything to hold Stoner on. Like, they can't really charge him with anything. Elsewhere in Med Lab, Timov, she's really frustrated about the situation. And like her demeanor throughout the whole episode was interesting, right?
Yeah. I predicted that the "Take Me to My Husband" was going to be chosen. Tismuth or
Timov?
I don't know. Timov. And I just felt like, I thought she's being very upfront, and he's already said he doesn't like any of them. Right. So it's not like he's going to pick one that he likes, because he hates them all. So then what kind of person does he want to be with? Probably someone who he doesn't think is going to try to murder him,
Yeah.
And I'm like, she's the only one that's been like really straightforward with him the whole time. So I thought she would pick her.
Did you guys recognize how? Sorry, Mel.
Say it again.
Did you guys recognize how the youngest wife actually bought the gift, and then the second wife was like, "Yeah, it's kind of from us." It's like, no, it wasn't. You weren't a part of that process at all. And do you still feel the same way now that there was an attempted assassination on him using that gift?
Yo,
yeah, she was kind of phony. Yeah.
Like, look at their characteristics. So, like, the young one, she's super ambitious, so she's power hungry. The second one is trying to associate herself with power, and she's all like, yes, we did this. I did this. I'm part of this. And then Timov, she's like, I ain't doing nothing. Why would I do all that for? Like, y'all don't even like him.
I thought Timov would probably get it because he valued keeping them away. And she, like, the first thing she said was, the reason why this marriage works is our lack of communication. So why are we here? So they're on the same page with staying away from each other. Yeah. He doesn't want to keep the wife who's going to be involved with him. Just go live your life. Yeah. If the other two are seeking power, if he gets more power, they're going to start clinging. Right. But the other one, she's like, I'm cool. Just stay away from me. I'm good. And that's how he wants it.
Right. Exactly. And so at this point, Timov, she volunteers to give the blood transfusion to Lando, and she wants to make sure that Dr. Franklin just doesn't tell him. And okay, credit to Franklin. He's like, okay, fine. Let's just save his life. I don't care. That's where that master's in xenobiology is starting to come in handy, and he has another life that he can put on his he can mark on his notch of saves.
Yeah, and he's always being confronted with like all these dilemmas when it comes to saving people. They're like, well, I don't want to do this and blah blah blah, but this was like, just don't tell him I helped him. And oh, that's all you wanted? Compared to all the other life or death situations he done dealt with.
Yeah.
It's like, you want me to save him? Okay.
And so the show is almost over. So the next scene, it's Lou, our blue collar security guy with this kind of balding, bigger guy. He basically tells Garibaldi that Stoner's background check corroborates his story, And you notice that there was something about Stoner that made him like him, and he's like, that's where Garibaldi's like, wait a minute, you fed him? He's like, yeah, we fed him. Like, he's an inmate. How does he get to eat? And Lou is like, oh no, he just asked for it. And this is where we're like, we know that he's using his powers on everybody. And Winter is going to visit Stoner to inform him that she's not going to be leaving with him. But once again, he's using his powers. I believe he's using his powers, and he's convincing her to change her mind, and they're about to walk away. And so Stoner and Winter are walking, and this is the part that you missed, Sunday, because it happens really quick. As they're walking away, Garibaldi just comes out of nowhere and just sucker punches Stoner right in the mouth. And this breaks his influence over Winters and the guards. And so it's just like, I guess that sudden trauma breaks his concentration. And
that really did confuse me, because I saw them walking out and all the things, and I'm just like, why did he just hit him? I was so confused.
He's like, I got you in the face. and then like they end that part. In the meantime, Jakar is discussing the attack on Malari, and he's putting all the pieces together, and he's just like, hey, whoever did this is a true genius, because the artifact was bought at the market. If security were sniffing around, they would look at the attempt and people behind the attempt, yada yada yada. And it's Muriel, she's super smart about it, but she is also having an affair with Jakar. They're drinking together, and that just shows like she's a true Centauri. She's all about like, how can I make this benefit me? And of course, Jakar hates Lando. He would love to see that dude die. And he's all like, look, if I figured it out, I guarantee you he's going to figure it out. So watch your back. We can guess that there may be some revenge play, but maybe that's a story for another time.
Yeah, I kind of thought he was in on it in the beginning, because like he's showing up with the boots on, and
yeah, I know, right?
They said that the artifact was actually a weapon that his people invented.
Yep.
So what if he had planted it for Stoner to bring it to the station, and so that she could find, quote unquote, find it in the shopping area, and that's how the plan worked. That's how I thought it would unravel. That it did unravel. That's what I thought happened after I saw them together at the end.
But the way he said it makes it sound like she set it up, and that he maybe helped her, because in order to get that, did. Yeah, in order to get that kind of stuff on the station, people gotta like have connections and pull strings. Jakar has smuggled things onto the station before. He's had like he's had like Narn fighters do things and all that stuff. He snuck himself onto the station without anybody knowing.
Yeah. I was like, how'd you get here? Well,
right.
I've been here.
He was there, right?
And no one knows I'm here. Like, why does no one know you're here? You sneaking onto your own apartment. Like,
right. Back at the customs area, Malari and Veer are escorting the three wives back, and basically Veer presents Timov with a schedule of events because Lando picked her, and the rest are they get to kick rocks. And it's kind of interesting because Timov has like this bittersweet sense about her. She saved this guy's life, and he did help her, but he won't know that she did anything for him. And that's kind of the way they like it. And then, like, as we finish, Delenn is thanking Commander Ivanova for her assistance during the recent crisis and inquires if Ivanova knows why Delenn is suddenly having these unusual cramps. Yep. I'm trying to end it with a joke.
Cycle started, and I tried to find a way to sing that, but I was delayed. But yeah, she's like whole human out here.
Yep.
And
No
having a
sleep
menstrual
and
cycle.
everything.
Yeah. Oh, wait. We missed a part, and I wanted to kind of like get this out there. So after all that stuff went down with Garibaldi and Stoner, Sheridan is confronting Stoner. He's like, I don't think you left the Corps. I think they did something to you, right? He doesn't think that Stoner officially quit. He still has his Psy Corps. He thinks that he's still in Psy Corps. And he thinks that he is something else that Psy Corps has made, because we always know about telepaths, and this is where we reveal that Stoner is an empath, and that's the powers that he's been using. He's been altering people's emotions and feelings about him. Mm-hmm. And Garibaldi is like trying to get him off the station, and his whole thing is, look, if we suddenly become friends, I got a corridor full of officers out there. As soon as you walk out, they're gonna light you up. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. So they get that dude off the station, and it on the one hand it's kind of satisfying, but on the other it's like, look, y'all, this guy is in/out, but in Psy Corps, and they are experimenting, making new types of telepaths. This is still like uncharted territory. This is kind of scary, right?
Mm-hmm. And Sheridan's just letting them know that he knows.
Yep.
Like, why would you tell him? It would have made more sense to have one of those side scenes where with him and Ivanova. Like, tell Ivanova, don't tell the dude that's going to go and report it, or have his brain scanned by telepaths to find out that he suspects you. Like, and I think he's really excited. He's really geeking out over these conspiracies that he gets to like see in person.
Yeah, and I think before we started recording, Nita started talking about eugenics. I think that's what's happening with Psy Corps. They're practicing eugenics, and this goes more into our space Nazi allegory with them. They are the thought police. They are arranging marriages so they can create stronger telepaths, and they are experimenting on people to create different types of telepaths. This is eugenics in space.
Yeah, it made me think of Niall Ruth Cox, who at the age of 18 was she had a little baby, was unmarried, her mom was on welfare, and the eugenics board of the United States, I think it was Maryland, I don't remember, decided that she needed to be temporarily sterilized.
What?
And yeah, this was in 19 something. And I believe it was in 1970 when she went to a gynecologist to have her temporary sterilization reversed. Uh-huh. And the gynecologist said that's not possible because you were supposed to get your tubes tied. Actually got a salpingectomy. They took your tubes away. Yeah. She sued, and I don't recall what came up of the very final decision, but it was she had to put in an appeal because the courts were like, well, you took too long to complain.
Oh wow, I hate when you do
that.
that.
That's whack. So
when I'm thinking out like controlling the population and controlling what kind of humans come out. Mm-hmm. It's just really, really fucking bizarre that during the lifetime of my grandparents, there were people being sterilized because, she was told to, because if she wasn't going to get sterilized, then her family would no longer be receiving welfare services.
Yes. Yep. There was that where they were offering sterilization for welfare services, and in certain crisis situations like natural disasters and stuff like that, people would be sterilized without even knowing that they were. And I think that still happens to this day. We have people who are coming to the U.S. across the border, and part of their quote unquote medical checkups is sterilization. They don't know they're being sterilized. They think they're being helped. And this has been going on for over 100 years. So the U.S. historically has been participating in eugenics and population control. And it's wild because one of the very things that the Nazi Party is being, constantly condemned for, like they always talk about Nazi scientists, they learned it from us. They learned it from the U.S. Right. And the U.S. is like, oh man, those guys were bad. Oh, we're not going to stop. We're just going to say that they were bad.
It always feels like projection whenever they do that. And then it goes back and forth too, because like they learned it from us, but then after the war, when a lot of their scientists wanted refuge, they let them come over here.
Yep. And we listen to certain types of politicians kind of avow the eugenics view by saying we want the best from certain types of countries because we want doctors, nurses, lawyers, and they'll talk about different nationalities and races that they think are the best, and like, yeah, we need you to come and integrate into America. And then the undesirables, oh, we don't want you here. We don't have room. Stay out.
Yeah, when they don't consider the fact that the potential or the usefulness of people, it depends on the person and not where they're coming from. And there's always that whole circumstance that they create where those certain people aren't allowed to get the education and resources to show that they can.
Yes.
I want to share my opinion about the overall theme, like the overall message that I got from this episode.
Yeah.
Is marriage for women sucks because the man is trying to control you. That's telepath and smoker. Or what's his name? Stoner.
Yeah.
Marriage sucks for men because all the women want to do is leech off of you. That's the 3 wives and Lando. Marriage is going to suck because you don't actually like your partner, but you should stay married because it's a good business move. That's Timov and Lando. So I'm just getting a lot of like negativity, and even though the episode started literally with polyamorous relationship, it ended with monogamy. So in the end, we should all just be monogamous. But
well, it's because it's what Lando wanted, right? That's what he thought was ideal.
Yeah, I mean, and some cultures only see marriage as a status thing. There are some cultures who actually love each other and want to be a family and support each other and their gifts and stuff. There are some cultures who do that, but the major cultures in the Western world originally saw it only as a status thing.
Yeah,
and even with Talia and Stoner, they were only married for a status, for that number of that number that could be designated to whatever gene that the baby had.
Yeah. Their genetic.
So it's always So I mean, I was told one time that marriage is not something that anyone should want because it's supposed to be for money and status, whereas as my sister was explaining to me, that I should have known. I felt like I should already knew this, but in the Moor culture, it's more of a team. That's a short explanation. But it's like the gifts that a woman can give a husband is appreciated. And what a husband can do for the wife is because they value what the wife does for them. It's equal. It's equal and it's different and equal. Like they both just, it's out of appreciation and for their growth together.
Yeah.
But in Western culture, it's like, what can I get out of you?
Yeah, that's what it seems. That's what it looks like to me. And even when you think about modern dating culture, there's this backlash of dude bros who think women are only gold diggers, but then they're looking at women only for what women have to offer. And there's this whole thing about high value men, high value women. Everybody's looking at each other like property. Everybody's looking at each other like property. Like even dating, people are looking at each other like property. There's a power imbalance.
We gonna keep it rolling with one more thought.
Go ahead.
How were they going to procreate with telepathy, lady? It would be not consensual.
Yes.
Want to make sure.
Yes, exactly. It not consensual. She would have been forced in a situation where she did not have choices.
Mm-hmm. Even though it appeared to be consensual, she was being manipulated. Yeah.
Nita, if I told you Corps was mother, Corps was father, would you think of that as a government organization or other?
Other, because remember the cult that I was in? We had a mother and father. Mm-hmm. Corps is God.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
I'd rather Ivana Bowie.
All right, we got to get out of here. So, thank y'all for joining us for another episode of Voices in Hyperspace. You can check us out on TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. Just look for Voices in Hyperspace. You can also find us on all of your favorite streaming platforms. I think I personally prefer Spotify, but you can find us on other platforms like Apple Music, Amazon Music, etc. And you can find Captain Mel. Where can we find you, Captain Mel?
www.melsrebellion.com.
Great. And Nita Payne.
And yeah, I'm Nita. Mel, I don't think I told you this. My government, like my issued name is Renita, which is Latin for rebel. So yes, I am on the ship with Captain Mel. But I also have my own stuffs. I am at nitapainter.com. I am Nita Painter in all places.
Hey y'all, this is Sunday. Au revoir.
All right. So we'll catch up with y'all next time. Until then, we'll see you out there.